Hi, readers. It's Miss A here again. I'm excited for the story that we're going to read today. Today, we're going to read a text called Galimoto by Lynn Williams. I want you to stop and look carefully at this cover right here. Do you think this text is fiction or nonfiction, and why? Now would be a great time to pause the video, talk to someone about it, write yourself a sticky, write in your reading journal, post an electric or digital response into your digital reading journal if you've started one. Do it now. All right, here's my prediction. I predict the genre of this book is maybe realistic fiction. Although the pictures look like someone created them with art, and maybe it's a made-up story about this boy that's on the cover is making things, it looks like. I'm wondering if it's a possible realistic story that really could happen. That's the evidence for my thinking. Here's our learning target today. I can refer to important information and details that is evidence to support my opinions and statements. So remember, as we read, I want you to tune into an opinion or a statement you make about the book. Then notice what evidence or things that happened in the book support your opinion or the statement you make about the text. Now, maps, when we do this, readers, it's really important that we weed out the important information and the interesting information. In a previous lesson, we've learned that when you cook pasta, you strain out or you pull apart the noodles from the water after they cook. So the noodles are the important part that you want to keep and eat, and the water is all the extra things that you can just strain out and take away. So we do the same thing as readers. We have to determine and decide. There's lots of information in a text, but what part of that information is important that we need to hold on to? Remember, you are holding on to important information that supports an opinion or an idea or statement that you have about the book. I hope you enjoy, and we'll come back together after the reading.
Galimoto by Lynn Williams, illustrated by Catherine Stock. Condi opened an old shoebox and looked inside. These were his things. They belonged to him. Inside the box was a ball made of many old plastic bags, tightly wrapped with string. There was a knife Condi had made from a piece of tin can, and a dancing man he had made from dried corn stalks. In Condi's box, there were also some scraps of wire. He had been saving the wires for something special. Now he took them and the knife from his box. "I shall make a Galimoto," Condi told his brother Ufulu. Ufulu laughed. "A boy with only 7 years cannot make such a toy. You don't have enough wires." "I'll get enough wires," Condi answered. Condi took his knife and wire scraps and went to the home of his friend Gift. "I want your wires," Condi told Gift. "I'll give you my knife for them." "Why do you want the wires?" Gift asked. "I want to make a Galimoto," Condi answered. Gift ran his fingers over the tin knife. "It is a good knife. I'll cut a dancing man with it." Gift took a handful of wires from his box of things and gave them to Condi. "That's not enough wires for a Galimoto," he told his friend. "I'll find enough wires," Condi said. Condi put his wires into an old white plastic bag and took them to the shop of his uncle. "Good day, second son of my brother," his uncle greeted him. "How can I help you?" "I want some wires," Condi told his uncle. "How will you pay for it?" "I have no money," Condi answered, "but you have wires on your old packing boxes from the city. They would make a fine Galimoto." "So you want to make a Galimoto?" "The son of my brother is a clever boy. Take the wires." Ch-ch-ch-ch-ch-ch. Condi could hear the grinder at the flour mill. Many women with babies tied on their backs waited in the hot sun. Others arrived carrying heavy baskets of maize on their heads. Condi squeezed through the crowd. He was very near the front door when someone grabbed him. The woman began yelling angrily, "Stop that one! He goes out of turn!" Condi was being pushed and shoved. Suddenly the mill stopped its grinding. "What is it?" the miller shouted. The women pointed to Condi. "Oh no," Condi said. "I have no maize to grind. I only want wires for a Galimoto." He opened his bag for them to see. "Playthings. For this you keep us waiting," the women grumbled angrily. "One cannot eat wires." An old toothless woman shook her hand at Condi. The miller shrugged. "There are some wires out back. Take those and go." In the back of the mill there was an open door. Inside the door was a pile of old motor parts. There Condi found some very thin wires wrapped in red and yellow and green plastic. "I can scrap the coating off," Condi thought. "These wires will hold my Galimoto together." Still, he did not have enough for a Galimoto. Condi passed some children playing on an anthill. One was Munde, the small sister of his friend Gift. She had a fine long piece of stick which she stuck into the hard dirt. "Little friend," Condi called as he came nearer, "you cannot catch an ant that way. Go fetch some water, for with that and a stick we will feed them." When Munde came back, Condi poured the water around one of the holes. "Now they will think the rains have begun," he explained. Then he stuck a stick down the hole. Gently he pulled it out, and on the end was a large ant. "My stick is better than a wire for catching ants. You may have a stick, and I'll have the wire." Condi knew there was a trash heap behind the bicycle repair shop, but the gate was locked. Condi climbed over the fence. In the courtyard, he found some broken, bent spokes from a bicycle. He climbed back over the fence with his bag. "Thief! Help! Police! Thief!" Condi heard a voice call. Children came running from the marketplace. Men came running from the shops. They made a circle around Condi. "Thief! Thief!" they chanted, pointing at Condi. A policeman arrived. He grabbed Condi by the shoulder. "What are you doing?" he asked. Condi showed the policeman his wires. "I want a Galimoto," he explained. "I need these wires." "Galimoto?" the crowd murmured. "Galimoto?" They shook their heads and went back to their businesses. "Take your wires and go," the policeman told Condi. Condi took his wires back to the shades of the red flame tree in his village. Nearby, his mother and sisters pounded their maize. They sang of the hard work they were doing. Condi sorted his wires. There were thick pieces and thin pieces. Some wires were long and some were short. Condi banged the bent and twisted ones with a stone to straighten them. Then he began. The thick wires made the frame. He wrapped the very thin wires at the joints to hold the Galimoto together. "My Galimoto will be a pickup," Condi planned. "It will carry maize to the city. It will have an antenna for the radio," he smiled. Condi worked all afternoon. He pounded the strongest wires around a pipe to make the round wheels. A sturdy piece of bamboo made the rod for the steering wheel. Finally, the warm, toasty smell of maize porridge cooking over the village fires told Condi it was time to go home. His brothers and sisters admired his work. "So you found enough wires?" Ufulu said. "Yes," Condi agreed. He parked his Galimoto next to his box of things and ate his supper. "Let the moon be bright for us to play and sing tonight." Condi could hear his friends singing in the distance. They were calling him to play. Now he carefully guided his Galimoto over the dusty dirt. "Galimoto!" someone cheered, and one by one Condi's friends formed a line behind him. "Eh, Galimoto!" they began to chant. Condi saw the shadow of his Galimoto cast by the moonlight, racing alongside. "It's a fine Galimoto," he thought proudly. "Perhaps tomorrow I shall make my Galimoto into an ambulance or an airplane or a helicopter."
Wow, what a great text that was. I really enjoyed that. Now, after reading, what do you think the genre is? Now is a great time to pause the video, write your new thinking underneath or near where you wrote your initial thinking, and explain why. Now, I think the genre of this book really is realistic fiction. I'm not sure if this is a true story or not, but I definitely know that there are places in the world that people live like this and have very little things and very few toys and get very creative. I actually have a soccer ball at my house that is from a village in Africa, and it's made out of grocery bags crunched together and wrapped with wire and string to turn it into a makeshift soccer ball. So that background knowledge helps me to know this really could have happened, but I don't know whether or not it is a true story. So to me, that makes it realistic fiction. It could be real and it's very possible, but I believe it's made up by the author. And that's why I think it's a realistic fiction text. Okay, Mavs. So what can you talk about now that we have read the text together? What is some thinking that you have? What's an inference that you made? What's an idea that you have? What's an opinion you have? So, for example, as I was reading, I was thinking about determining important information that we read to support an opinion. From the beginning, I was noticing that Condi is very determined. I would describe him as a determined child, and here's why. Evidence from the text that I read and heard was that the older kiddo at the beginning said, Condi, you're too young to make a Galimoto. But no matter what that other kid said or other students, he just was determined to find the materials to make his Galimoto. He didn't give up. Every single place he went to get wire to create his Galimoto, someone doubted him, someone was frustrated with him, someone shook their head and said, you can't do that. Even another child, he decides to trade a stick for the wires that he needs. So he does multiple things and continues on his journey no matter what other people said. In my life and my background knowledge experience is when I or people around me continue to try and try and try, even if problems come up and they don't give up. To me, that shows determination. So if I could mix those text clues I read with the background knowledge from my brain, just like we talked about in a previous lesson, I'm able to make a really smart inference that I would describe Galimoto as a very determined kiddo. What's an opinion or a statement that you have? What's an important event that happened? And why do you think that? Use some of these example sentence stems that are on your screen right now to go ahead and turn and talk to someone in your house or do a piece of writing about today's text. Write in your homemade reader's journal that you have. You can write in the digital reading journal on Google Classroom or wherever it makes sense to you. You can pause the video now to use these sentence stems to help you. Remember what's an opinion or something you can say about the text and what is evidence from the text that supports that thinking. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Bye, readers.